ESPN polled executives, coaches, scouts, and players, and made a ranking of the top 10 NFL quarterbacks. Mahomes is number one. Obviously, not a lot of argument there. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. Again, not a ton of argument there. I could hear the argument for Allen above Burrow, but it's, those are the top three pretty much. I disagree with Rodgers at 4, but nonetheless, I think he's fine. Herbert 5, Hurts at 6, Lamar 7, Trevor Lawrence 8, Dak, and then Stafford at 10. Again, not a ton of disagreement. I think Lamar above Trevor Lawrence is kind of crazy, but MVP, been to more playoff games, all that. So I get that argument. Dak's a little high to me, but whatever. But this list had a lot of hype around it, and some of the guys on the list also have their own hype train in a sense. Like Lamar, I feel like you can't really talk about Lamar in a negative sense without getting a ton of blowback, right? Same thing with Dak. And I like Herbert, but same thing with Justin Herbert as well. And, so I got to thinking about how everybody wants to give these people the flowers and the praise, and that's great, good for them, good guys. Nothing against anybody that I ever discussed personally. Hope they find some level of success. But I'm going to tell you right now that out of those 10 guys, about 5 of them are going to be remembered and be legendary, and 5 will not. And it's tough because 2 of those guys on the list, Rodgers and Mahomes, already will be legendary without having to do another thing. I'm sorry, but it's true. There's a level of saturation to any market, right? There's a reason that RC Cola doesn't dominate anything, right? Like Coke and Pepsi are plenty, right? The market tells you we don't need a third big soda provider. How about phones, right? There's a reason that the Amazon Fire phone didn't do so hot. Like, we're just fine with iPhone, Samsung, a little bit of Google sprinkled in there, although I don't think it's that great, but this isn't a debate on phones, but you get the point. There's a level of saturation. I think it's the same thing with quarterbacks. I mean, look at this past quarterback generation, one that a lot of people would say is maybe the best of all time, right? Big Ben, 8, right? 2 Super Bowls. Brady, obviously, with his, 7. Manning had 2. Eli has 2. Breeze was able to steal one in there. Aaron steals another one. I mean, like, Flacco steals one, but it was more about defense than anything. Russ steals one, again, more about defense than anything, but nonetheless, they still get one. I would say Russ is close to being a Hall of Famer. Flacco, probably not, but you get the point, right? It's not that easy, and there's not that wide of an array of quarterbacks that are able to win these. So, now let's look at some of the guys in that past generation that weren't able to break through and be what I would say legendary. I would start with Phillip Rivers. Now, I know people would say he's a Hall of Famer. I'm not going to lie. I would disagree. I think stat compilers doesn't necessarily make you a Hall of Famer. I think you have to be great when it matters most. Eli, for example, was exactly that. 2 unbelievable playoff runs, outdueling Brady in 2 Super Bowls, right? Like, that is the Hall of Fame. That is great. That is excellence. Sustained above average, to me, isn't a Hall of Fame, right? So Phillip Rivers wasn't able to win one. How about, a lot of people don't talk about Carson Palmer, top high school quarterback, top college quarterback, like I think maybe first overall or a first round pick for sure, doesn't win one. Mark Sanchez, same thing, number 1 out of high school, first round pick, coming out of college, didn't work out. Didn't work. Tony Romo wasn't able to win one. Now, granted, he was like an undrafted guy, kind of underrated, but still, never won one. Donovan McNabb, never won one. Matt Stafford in Detroit had to wait till the end of most of the leaders, right, the Bens and the Bradys, right, had to wait till closer to the end of their careers and had to go to the best coach in football at the time to then win one. Matt Ryan never won one. Or like, you go look, and these are all guys that I would say at any given point in their career would have been thought of ranked anywhere from 6 to 12 on the quarterback rankings, right? Like somewhere in that second half of the top 10, where a lot of guys like Trevor Lawrence are. Justin Herbert, right? Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. Guys that we think fringe top 5, but you could argue yourself into like 8, 9, or 10. Right? I'm not even including guys like, how about Caleb Williams, Drake May? They're projected to walk in and be top 15 guys off the rip. Like, don't even get me started on quarterback busts that don't work out. Like, we'd love to think Kyler is super talented. First overall pick, is pretty good the first couple years. Doesn't guarantee a thing. Daniel Jones, Deshaun Watson, hell, Kenny Pickett. Like, there's a level of saturation. Those are guys right there that love Kenny Pickett. I build around him right now. But I think it's a reality of the league that you're not going to have a bunch of people that win Super Bowls. I mean, there is a ton of talent in this league. Like let's just play a hypothetical game. Over the next 10 years, I'm going to go ahead and give Mahomes 2 more Super Bowls. And I think I might be on the under on that. I think 2 is very fair. So he gets 2 more. Over the next 10 years, that leaves 8 total Super Bowls to be had for Dak, Kirk Cousins in the latter part of his career, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Lamar. Hell, I'll even throw Deshaun in there. A lot of people think of him as a star still. You start crunching numbers. I'm telling you right now, a lot of these guys, they're going to be up a creek without a paddle, right? Like, we like to give everybody their flowers and, but he's great. There's a difference between great, going to win Super Bowls, going to be remembered historically, damn near Hall of Famer, and, yeah, an okay career. Starter for 10 years, won a couple playoff games, lost in a couple conference championships. Like, it is very difficult to win in this league. There's a saturation of the market. There is a breaking point where not all these guys can win. Not all these guys are going to end up being stars like you think, right? You're not going to be able to have 10 Hall of Famers in the league at the same time. That's just, it's not possible, right? I know everybody wants to give everybody the flowers, right? Lamar's heading for the Hall of Fame. Well, I mean, not necessarily. He probably needs another MVP. Definitely needs a Super Bowl. So just slow down, pump the brakes a little bit. There's a level of saturation in the market. I think we're close to reaching it. I think, unfortunately, you're going to get guys like a Kenny Pickett, like a Deshaun Watson, like a Kyler, that unfortunately probably won't win a Super Bowl. And that's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah. And the fan bases will come to the quarterback's, defense like no other. We have people from New York telling us that Daniel Jones is a top 5 quarterback and that he's one of the best in the league. Like, are we serious?
Look, it's fine to be optimistic, but you also have to be realistic at the same time.
Yeah,
and like
you have to be.
And to just pretend like this isn't a fact. This is like the whole discussion whenever you predict for the playoffs, and there's like new teams in there. They're like, like, how can you say that like the Giants aren't going to make it? They made it last year. 5 new teams a year, at least.
Yeah.
So that's the reality of the
Not
situation. Nobody wants to accept it.
You're not guaranteed a playoff spot just because you made it in years previous.
Yeah, it's a fact.
Either way.